the man America trusts. An introduction. Few actors in modern cinema command the universal affection and respect that Tom Hanks does. With a career spanning over 4 decades, Hanks has become more than a movie star. He is a cultural institution, a symbol of decency, resilience, and quiet heroism. Dubbed America's dad by fans and media alike, Hanks embodies a rare combination of warmth, intelligence, humility, and emotional depth that has made him one of the most beloved figures in entertainment history. Born Thomas Jeffrey Hanks on July 9, 1956, in Concord, California. He rose from modest beginnings to become a 2-time Academy Award winner, a 6-time Oscar nominee, and one of the highest-grossing actors of all time. His filmography is a tapestry of American life spanning comedy, drama, war, space exploration, animation, and historical epics. From the lovable slacker in Bachelor Party to the stranded castaway in Castaway, from the heroic Captain Miller in Saving Private Ryan to the gentle Mr. Rogers in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Hanks has played characters who reflect our best selves, kind, brave, flawed, and enduring. But behind the roles is a man of remarkable integrity, curiosity, and generosity, a man who has used his fame not for self-promotion, but for storytelling, education, and human connection. This is the story of Tom Hanks, not just as an actor, but as a man who has shaped how we see ourselves through the power of film. Roots in California, a fractured childhood, and the birth of a storyteller. Tom Hanks was born into a working-class family. His father, Amos Hanks, was a cook and later a hospital worker. His mother, Janet Marilyn Niefrager, was a hospital worker and nurse's aide. The family moved frequently across California, Nevada, and Michigan. Following Amos's job, when Tom was 5, his parents divorced, a traumatic event that would later influence his work. His mother remarried, but Hanks has described his stepfather as verbally abusive. He found solace in books, television, and the movies. He was particularly drawn to classic films and the works of Woody Allen, Mel Brooks, and the Carol Burnett Show. He attended Skyline High School in Oakland, where he discovered theater. He joined the drama club and performed in school plays, quickly realizing that acting allowed him to escape his reality and become someone else. It was a revelation. After high school, he enrolled at Chabot College, a community college in Hayward, California, where he studied theater. A drama teacher, Bill Bushnell, recognized his talent and encouraged him to pursue acting seriously. Hanks later said, "He was the first person who ever told me I could do this for a living." In 1975, he transferred to California State University, Sacramento, but dropped out after 2 years to join the Great Lakes Shakespeare Festival in Cleveland, Ohio. It was there that he began to hone his craft, performing Shakespearean roles, and learning the discipline of stage acting. The comedy years. From television to national stardom, Hanks' early career was rooted in comedy. In 1979, he moved to New York City and joined the improvisational comedy group, The Basement Theater. His timing, expressive face, and ability to shift from slapstick to subtle wit caught the attention of casting agents. In 1980, he landed a role on the sitcom Bosom Buddies, playing Kip Wilson, a man who disguises himself as a woman to live in a cheap apartment. Though the show only lasted 2 seasons, it showcased Hanks' physical comedy and charm. More importantly, it introduced him to a national audience. In 1984, he starred in the film Splash, directed by Ron Howard. The romantic fantasy comedy, about a man who falls in love with a mermaid, Daryl Hannah, was a box office hit. Hanks' performance, earnest, funny, and emotionally grounded, proved he could carry a major film. The 1980s became his decade of transformation. He starred in a string of comedies that defined his early persona. Bachelor Party 1984, a raucous comedy about a wild night before marriage. The Man with One Red Shoe 1985, a spy spoof that underperformed but showed his range. Nothing in Common 1986, a dramatic turn as a son reconnecting with his estranged father, played by Jackie Gleason. The film marked a shift toward more serious roles. Big 1988, a career-defining role as a 12-year-old boy who magically becomes an adult overnight. Hanks was nominated for his first Academy Award for Best Actor. The film's iconic scene, Hanks and Robert Loggia dancing on a giant piano at FAO Schwartz, became a cultural touchstone. Big was more than a comedy. It was a meditation on childhood, responsibility, and the loss of innocence. Hanks didn't play the childlike man as a caricature. He played him with wonder, confusion, and heart, proving he could be funny without being silly. The dramatic turn from comedy to Oscar glory. By the 1990s, Hanks was no longer just a funny man. He was a serious actor. In 1993, he starred in Philadelphia, a groundbreaking film about a gay lawyer with AIDS who sues his firm for wrongful termination. At a time when HIV/AIDS was heavily stigmatized, the film was both courageous and compassionate. Hanks lost over 30 pounds to portray the physical deterioration of the disease. His performance was quiet, dignified, and devastating. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor, delivering a speech that honored those lost to AIDS and called for empathy and understanding. The next year, he won again for Forrest Gump 1994. The film directed by Robert Zemeckis, tells the story of a man with a low IQ who unwittingly influences major historical events. Hanks' portrayal of Forrest, a kind, simple man who loves his mother, Jenny, and his country, became iconic. The film was a phenomenon, grossed over $677 million worldwide, won 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Actor entered. Cultural lexicon with lines like, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get." Hanks didn't just play Forrest. He became him earnest, gentle, and profoundly human. He avoided sentimentality, instead grounding the character in quiet dignity. With 2 consecutive Oscars, Hanks joined an elite group of actors, but more importantly, he proved that kindness could be powerful, that a good man, not a superhero, could be the hero of the story. The Spielberg era, war, history, and human courage. In the late 1990s, Hanks formed a legendary partnership with director Steven Spielberg. Their first collaboration was Saving Private Ryan, 1998. A visceral, harrowing World War II film about a group of soldiers sent to rescue a paratrooper behind enemy lines. Hanks played Captain John Miller, a turned officer burdened by the weight of command. The film's opening 27-minute D-Day sequence, filmed in documentary style, revolutionized war cinema. It was brutal, chaotic, and deeply respectful of sacrifice. Hanks' performance was understated, but monumental. He didn't shout, he didn't preach, he led with quiet courage. His final words, "Earn this," became a national mantra about duty and remembrance. The film won 5 Oscars and is widely regarded as one of the greatest war films ever made. They reunited in Catch Me If You Can, 2002, a stylish, fast-paced true story about con artist Frank Abagnale Jr., Leonardo DiCaprio, with Hanks playing the FBI agent who pursues him. The film balanced humor, tension, and unexpected warmth, showcasing Hanks' ability to play the straight man with soul, the everyman hero. Castaway, and the Power of Sunset, 2000, Hanks starred in Castaway, a film that pushed him to physical and emotional extremes. He played Chuck Noland, a FedEx executive stranded on a deserted island after a plane crash. For most of the film, he is alone, no dialogue, no other actors, just survival. Hanks lost 50 pounds for the role, grew a beard, and learned to start fires, open coconuts, and make a raft. His performance was a masterclass in nonverbal storytelling. He communicated loneliness, hope, despair, and determination through facial expressions, body language, and silence. The volleyball. Wilson became a symbol of human need for connection. Castaway was not just a survival story. It was a meditation on time, love, and what it means to be human. Though he didn't win the Oscar that year, the film cemented his status as an actor who could carry a film on his shoulders literally and figuratively. The producer and storyteller. Beyond acting, Hanks is not just an actor. He is a producer, writer, and historian. In 1995, he co-founded Playtone, a production company that has produced some of the most acclaimed films and television series of the 21st century. Notable Playtone productions: My Big Fat Greek Wedding, 2002, a sleeper hit that became one of the most profitable indie films ever. The Polar Express, 2004, a motion capture, animated film where Hanks played multiple roles. Larry Crowne, 2011, a film he wrote, directed, and starred in, about a middle-aged man rebuilding his life. The Post, 2017, a political thriller about the Pentagon Papers, co-starring Meryl Streep. Greyhound, 2020, a World War II naval thriller that Hanks wrote and starred in, on television. Playtone produced Band of Brothers, 2001, a 10-part HBO miniseries about Easy Company in World War II. Hanks co-created it with Spielberg. It won 6 Emmys and is considered one of the greatest TV series ever made. The Pacific, 2010, a companion series focusing on the Pacific Theater. Masters of the Air, 2024, a 3rd installment about the 8th Air Force. These projects reflect Hanks' deep interest in history, heroism, and the human cost of war. Mr. Rogers and the Final Act, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, in 2019. Hanks took on one of his most delicate roles, Fred Rogers, the beloved children's television host. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood was not a biopic. It was a fictional story inspired by a real journalist's encounter with Rogers. Hanks didn't impersonate Rogers. He embodied him: his calm voice, his gentle eyes, his unwavering kindness. The film was a quiet masterpiece. Hanks' performance was serene, almost spiritual. He didn't need big moments. His presence alone was healing. He said of the role, Fred Rogers wasn't an actor. He was a minister, and his show was his sermon. Hanks was nominated for his 7th Academy Award, not for playing a hero, but for playing a saint. The real Tom Hanks family. Values and public life. Hanks is married to actress Rita Wilson, whom he met on the set of Volunteers, 1985. They married in 1988 and have 2 sons, Chet and Truman. He also has 2 children from his first marriage, to Samantha Luz, Colin and Elizabeth, both of whom are actors. The Hanks-Wilson family is known for its closeness, humor, and mutual support. Rita has co-produced many of his films, and their love story is often cited as one of Hollywood's healthiest. Hanks is a devout historian, particularly of World War II. He has written 2 novels, The Making of +1, a satire of Hollywood, and The Library Book, a non-fiction exploration of a 1986 library fire in Los Angeles. He is also a typewriter enthusiast, collecting over 250 vintage machines, and even launching a digital writing app. Hanks' writer, modeled after a 1950s typewriter. In 2020, during the early days of the pandemic, Hanks and Rita became the first major celebrities to announce they had contracted COVID-19 from Australia, where he was filming bios. He issued a calm, reassuring statement. "We felt a bit lousy, and now we're on the mend." His transparency helped normalize the virus and reduce fear. Legacy. The last good man in Hollywood. Tom Hanks' legacy is not just in awards or box office numbers. It is in trust. People believe him. They trust his characters. They trust him. In a world of cynicism, he plays the good man not as a fool, but as a choice. In a culture of outrage, he speaks with kindness. In an age of celebrity ego, he remains humble. He has won 2 Academy Awards for Golden Globes, the Presidential Medal of Freedom 2016. The Kennedy Center honors 2023, but his greatest honor is this. When a child thinks of a hero, they don't think of a cape, they think of Tom Hanks. And as long as there is a story to tell, a kindness to show, or a role that needs a good man, Tom Hanks will be there. The voice behind the camera, narration, and documentary work beyond acting. Tom Hanks has become one of the most trusted narrators in American media. His warm, steady, slightly raspy voice, familiar from 1,000 movie trailers and documentaries, becomes synonymous with truth, history, and gravitas. He has narrated the Civil War 1990 Ken Burns landmark PBS series, where Hanks read the letters of Union soldiers. His delivery was intimate, emotional, and deeply human. The War 2007, another Ken Burns collaboration, focusing on World War II through the eyes of American families. Prohibition 2011, a sweeping look at the 18th Amendment and its consequences. The National Parks, America's Best Idea, 2009, a celebration of American wilderness and conservation. Apollo 11 2019, a documentary composed entirely of archival footage. With Hanks providing no narration, yet his earlier work on From the Earth to the Moon made him a spiritual presence. His voice doesn't dramatize. It respects, it doesn't manipulate, it invites. When Hanks speaks, audiences listen not because he's famous, but because he sounds like someone who cares. He once said, "Narrating is the closest I'll ever get to being I'm just passing along what I've learned." This humility is at the core of his appeal. The Typewriter Man, a passion for analog in a digital age. Tom Hanks isn't just a collector of vintage typewriters, he's a champion of analog creativity. He owns over 250 typewriters, from 1930s Underwoods to 1970s Smith Coronas. He repairs them, uses them, and even writes screenplays and novels on them. In 2017, he released a book, Typewriter, a novel under the pseudonym Isaac Appleton, about a man who inherits a haunted typewriter. It was a playful tribute to his obsession. He also co-created 2 apps. Hanks Writer, a digital typewriter app that mimics the sound and feel of a vintage machine. AHA NX Papers, a notebook app with typewriter-style fonts. Why typewriters? For Hanks, they represent slowness, intention, and focus. No distractions, no internetchy, just words. One keystroke at a time, he said. When you type, you're not just writing, you're building something. Each letter is a brick. In a world of instant messaging and AI-generated text, Hanks' love for the typewriter feels like a quiet rebellion, a reminder that the best ideas come from patience, not speed. The historian, preserving the stories of war and peace. Hanks has a deep, lifelong fascination with World War II. It began in childhood, watching war films and reading history books. As an adult, it became a mission. Through Playtone, he has dedicated himself to preserving the stories of veterans. Band of Brothers 2001, based on Stephen E. Ambrose's book, the series followed Easy Company from D-Day to Hitler's Eagles. Hanks served as executive producer and narrator. The series was praised for its authenticity, emotional depth, and respect for the soldiers' experiences. The Pacific 2010, a companion series focusing on the brutal Pacific theater, following Marines through Guadalcanal, Peleliu, and Okinawa. Masters of the Air 2024, the third in the trilogy, about the 8th Air Force and the daylight bombing campaigns over Germany. These series were not just entertainment, they were acts of remembrance. Hanks has said, "The men who fought in World War II are disappearing. If we don't tell their stories now, they'll be forgotten." He has visited battlefields, interviewed veterans, and funded oral history projects. His goal is not to glorify war, but to honor courage, sacrifice, and brotherhood. The writer from screenplays to novels, though best known as an actor, Hanks is also a published author. In 2017, he released The Making of +1, a satirical novel about a Hollywood studio's desperate attempt to create a blockbuster. Written under the pseudonym David S. Wills, the book skewers studio politics, celebrity culture, and the absurdity of modern filmmaking. In 2019, he published The Library Book, a nonfiction work exploring the 1986 fire at the Los Angeles Central Library, which destroyed over 400,000 books. The book blends true crime, history, and Hank's love for libraries as sacred spaces of knowledge and community. He's also written short stories, including one for the New York Times, and co-wrote the screenplay for Larry Crowne and Greyhound. Writing style mirrors his acting, clear, compassionate, and deeply human. The teacher. Mentorship and encouragement. Hanks doesn't just play good men. He is a good mentor. He's known for lifting up young actors, giving advice, and sharing opportunities. He cast Chris Pine as Captain Kirk in Star Trek 2009, helping launch a new generation of sci-fi stars. He supported Helen Hunt during Cast Away, insisting she'll be in the final scene despite minimal screen time. He advocated for Paul Greengrass to direct Captain Phillips. Trusting a newcomer with a major film, he mentored Michael Keaton during Larry Crowne, offering guidance on directing on set. He's known for his calm presence, his jokes, and his willingness to help anyone from extras to camera operators. He once said, "The best thing you can do is make someone else feel like they belong." The public citizen, advocacy, and integrity. Hanks uses his platform not for self-promotion but for public service. He has supported veterans organizations through the National World War II Museum and other groups, public libraries, speaking out against funding cuts, education, donating to schools, and advocating for arts programs. Voting rights, appearing in PSAs, and urging civic engagement. In 2020, during the pandemic, he and Rita Wilson shared their recovery journey with transparency and humor, helping reduce stigma around the virus. When asked about politics, he avoids partisan rants. Instead, he promotes civility, empathy, and responsibility. He said, "I don't have all the answers, but I believe in being kind. That's a start." The final reflection: why Tom Hanks endures. Because we need him. In a world of cynicism, he is kind. In a culture of noise, he is calm. In an age of heroes in capes, he plays the man in a cardigan. Tom Hanks matters because he reminds us that goodness is not weakness. Vulnerability is strength. Stories can heal. He doesn't play gods. He plays people, and in doing so, he makes us believe in the best version of ourselves. The last word. The man who made us believe. Tom Hanks didn't set out to be a legend. He just wanted to tell stories. But in telling them with honesty, humor, and heart, he became one. Not because he's perfect, but because he's human. So here's to the man who danced on a piano, who survived on an island, who led soldiers into battle, who hugged a volleyball, who became Mr. Rogers. Here's to Tom Hanks, actor who made decency cool, the star who stayed humble, the storyteller who never stopped believing, and as long as there's a screen, a book, or a child learning to be kind, he will never be gone. The actor's actor, a masterclass in emotional authenticity. Tom Hanks doesn't just perform roles, he inhabits them. His gift lies not in transformation or flamboyance, but in emotional truth. He doesn't need prosthetics or accents to disappear into a character. He does it with stillness, with a glance, with the way he listens. Consider the final scene of Philadelphia 1993. As Andrew Beckett, dying of AIDS, Hanks lies in bed, weak but serene. His lover, Miguel Antonio Ben, sings "The Wings That You Own" softly. Hanks doesn't speak, he just looks at him, eyes full of love, gratitude, and peace. The camera holds on his face. No music swells, no tears are forced. And yet, the moment is shattering. That's Hanks at his finest. Not acting, but being. He doesn't reach for grand gestures. He finds the quiet moments, the way a man adjusts his tie before a trial, the hesitation before a confession, the breath before a decision. These micro-behaviors make his characters feel real, not constructed. In Captain Phillips 2013, after being rescued from Somali pirates, Captain Richard Phillips trembles uncontrollably in the Navy ship's infirmary. It's not a dramatic collapse. It's a physiological release, the body finally letting go after days of terror. Hanks didn't rehearse it. It happened naturally. Director Paul Greengrass kept the take because it was too real to ignore. That moment, human, epitomizes Hanks' genius. He doesn't play heroes. He plays people who rise to the occasion. The comedy alchemist, turning laughter into meaning. While Hanks is revered for his dramatic roles, his foundation is comedy, and not just slapstick, but comedy with soul. In Big 1988, the humor comes from a child in an adult's body playing arcade games, dancing on a piano, trying to understand office politics. But beneath the laughs is a profound question: when did we stop believing in joy? Hanks plays Josh Baskin not as a joke, but as a man rediscovering wonder. The comedy isn't in the situation, it's in the contrast between childlike curiosity and adult cynicism. Similarly, in Sleepless in Seattle 1993, he plays Sam Baldwin, a widower whose son calls a radio show to find him a new wife. The film is a romantic comedy, but Hanks infuses it with grief, loneliness, and hope. His performance is restrained, almost shy yet deeply moving. He doesn't need grand declarations. A look across a room at the Empire State Building is enough. Even in pure comedies like The Money Pit 1986 or Joe vs. the Volcano 1990, Hanks brings emotional weight. He's not just falling through floors or yelling at volcanoes, he's a man trying to build a life. To love, to matter. Hanks proved that laughter and depth are not opposites, they can coexist. And in doing so, he elevated the American comedy, the voice of the nation. Hanks's cultural narrator beyond film. Tom Hanks has become the moral voice of America not through speeches, but through presence. When he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016, President Barack Obama said, "There may be no American alive who is so beloved, or whose life reflects the best of who we are." That sentiment echoes across decades. Hanks is the actor we trust to represent us. In The Terminal 2004, he plays Victor Navorsky, a man stranded in JFK Airport due to a geopolitical crisis. He's not a spy or a criminal, just a decent man caught in bureaucracy. Hanks makes him patient, kind, and quietly defiant. In Larry Crown 2011, he plays a middle-aged man fired for lacking a college degree. He goes back to school, learns to live simply, and finds love. It's a story about dignity in the face of economic collapse. In News of the World 2020, he plays a Civil War veteran escorting a young girl to her family. It's a tale of healing, duty, and the quiet heroism of ordinary men. These roles aren't flashy, they're essential. They reflect our fears: job loss, displacement, loneliness, and our hopes: community, love, resilience. And because we trust Hanks, we believe the stories, the humanitarian, quiet acts of kindness. Hanks doesn't seek headlines for charity, but his generosity is well documented. He has donated millions to schools, libraries, and veterans groups. He funded the Tom Hanks Scholarship at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. He supports the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, serving on its board and narrating exhibits. He has quietly paid medical bills for fans, helped struggling actors, and sent handwritten notes of encouragement. After the 2018 California wildfires, he donated to relief efforts and used his platform to urge support for first responders. When a fan wrote to him about losing a child, he responded personally: "No PR team, no template, just compassion." He once said, "Fame is just attention. The only thing that matters is what you do with it." For Hanks, fame is not a spotlight, it's a megaphone for kindness. The Collaborator. Building a creative family. Hanks has worked with the same directors, writers, and crew members for decades, building a creative family based on trust and mutual respect. Key collaborators: Ron Howard. From Splash to the Da Vinci Code series, their partnership spans comedy, drama, and thriller. Robert Zemeckis, one of the most enduring actor-director duos in film history. Films: Forrest Gump, Castaway, The Polar Express, Flight, Here 2024. Steven Spielberg, 2 films, Saving Private Ryan, Catch Me If You Can, but a deep mutual admiration. Gary Goetzman, co-founder of Playtone and Hanks' producing partner for over 25 years. Lorraine Gary, casting director who has helped shape Hanks' projects since the 1980s. This loyalty is rare in Hollywood. Hanks doesn't chase the hottest director. He works with people he trusts because, as he says, great movies aren't made by egos. They're made by teams. The everyman in extraordinary circumstances. A defining trait of Hanks' career is that he plays ordinary men in extraordinary situations. Chuck Noland, Castaway, a FedEx executive, not a survivalist. Jim Lovell, Apollo 13, a NASA astronaut, but also a husband and father. Captain Phillips, a merchant mariner, not a Navy SEAL. Forrest Gump, a man with limited intellect, but unlimited heart. Sully Sullenberger, Sully, a pilot who made one historic decision. These characters aren't chosen for their strength or brilliance. They're chosen for their integrity. When crisis hits, they do the right thing not because they're heroes, but because they can't imagine doing otherwise. Hanks doesn't glorify them. He grounds them. He shows their fear, their doubt, their fatigue, and that's why we believe in them. The father figure on screen and off. Hanks has played fatherhood more than any other actor of his generation. Mr. McDorium's Wonder Emporium 2007, a toy store manager coming into his own as a father figure. Larry Crown, a man mentoring students at community college. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Fred Rogers, as a spiritual father to a wounded journalist. Masters of the Air, narrating the stories of young men sent to war, many of whom never returned home. Off-screen, he is a devoted father and grandfather. He speaks openly about the joy and responsibility of parenting. He's been married to Rita Wilson for over 35 years, a rarity in Hollywood. He once said, "The best thing I've ever done is raise my kids to be good people." In a culture that often glorifies youth, Hanks embraces aging with grace. He doesn't hide his wrinkles. He doesn't dye his hair. He lets time show on his face because, as he says, it's not a flaw, it's a record of a life lived. The technologist with a soul, though deeply analog in his tastes, Hanks is not anti-technology. He's a thoughtful user of modern tools. He uses email, smartphones, and social media, but sparingly. He appeared in Apple ads promoting the iPad and iPhone, praising their ability to connect people. He supports digital preservation of film and history. He co-created Hank's Writer, blending nostalgia with modern convenience. His view is balanced. Technology is a tool, not a master. It should serve humanity, not replace it. He said, I love my typewriter, but I also love that I can video call my grandson in another country. Both are miracles. The final roles. What comes next? As of 2024, Hanks continues to work, but at his own pace. Upcoming projects: Here 2024, a Robert Zemeckis film using groundbreaking de-aging technology to show a family's life over a century. Hanks and Robin Wright play the same characters, from childhood to old age. The Wonder of It All, a documentary series on space exploration. Rumored to be involved in a final Mr. Rogers-related project, possibly a stage play or animated series. He has hinted that he may retire from acting soon, but he'll never stop telling stories. 28. The Legacy. Why Tom Hanks will never fade: because decency is timeless, because kindness is revolutionary, because we will always need someone to believe in. Tom Hanks didn't become America's dad because he played heroes. He became it because he is one quietly, consistently, without fanfare. He is the man who smiles at fans like they're old friends, signs every autograph, says thank you to the crew, writes novels on a typewriter, narrates history like it matters, plays the good man, even when no one's watching. And in doing so, he taught us that the most powerful role you can play is yourself. Kind, honest, and brave. The last word. The man who made us better, Tom Hanks, is not immortal. One day, he will be gone, but his work will remain. In every child who dances on a piano, in every veteran remembered, in every library saved, in every quiet act of courage. He didn't change the world with speeches, he changed it with stories. And as long as those stories are told on screens, in books, in homes, in hearts, Tom Hanks will live on. Not as a star, not as a legend, but as a reminder. You can be good and still be strong. The Emotional Architect. How Hanks builds trust. Frame by frame, Tom Hanks doesn't rely on dramatic monologues or explosive confrontations to convey depth. Instead, he is a master of emotional architecture, building trust with the audience brick by quiet brick, moment by subtle moment. His performances are not fireworks. They are sunrises, slow, steady, inevitable. Take Sully 2016, where he plays Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger, the pilot who safely landed U.S. Airways Flight 1549 on the Hudson River. The film isn't about the crash. It's about the aftermath and investigation, the doubt, the trauma. Hanks doesn't play Sully as a hero basking in glory. He plays him as a man haunted by the question, did I do the right thing? In one scene, Sully wakes from a nightmare of the plane crashing into Manhattan. He sits up, breathes, looks at his wife. No words, just a look of relief and residual fear. Hanks delivers it in silence, yet the emotion is deafening. This is his genius. He makes introspection cinematic. He lets the audience in not through exposition, but through presence. In Bridge of Spies 2015, directed by Spielberg, he plays James B. Donovan, a lawyer defending a Soviet spy during the Cold War. The role required restraint, moral clarity, and quiet courage. Hanks doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't grandstand. He argues his case with logic, decency, and an unshakable belief in the law. When Donovan says, "It's an important fight, even if I lose," it's not a line. It's a creed with such calm conviction that it becomes a national ideal. Hanks doesn't play characters who change the world. He plays those who refuse to let the world change them, the voice of the unseen. Hanks and the power of empathy. One of the most profound aspects of Tom Hanks' career is his consistent empathy for the overlooked. He doesn't just play heroes. He plays the unemployed Larry Crowne, the grieving sleepless in Seattle, My Life, the stranded castaway, the terminal, the aging, the bucket list. A Man Called Otto, the mentally ill Larry Crowne. I Am Sam, though he passed on the role, the immigrant, the terminal. Transamerica, he gives dignity to those society often ignores. In the terminal, Victor Navorsky Hanks is stuck in an airport due to a bureaucratic technicality. He has no money, no language, no home. Yet Hanks plays him not as a victim, but as a man who builds a life from scraps, making friends, learning English, finding purpose in small acts of kindness. The film is a metaphor for the immigrant experience, and Hanks embodies it with humor, resilience, and grace. He once said, "Everyone has a story, and most of them are more interesting than you'd think." That belief infuses every role he takes. The anti-celebrity fame without ego in an age of self-promotion. Tom Hanks is an anti-celebrity. He has no social media. He rarely gives interviews. He doesn't attend every premiere. He doesn't need to be the center of attention. Yet he is one of the most famous people on earth. His humility is not an act. It's authentic. On set, he's known for bringing coffee for the crew, remembering everyone's name, joking to ease tension, deflecting praise. When he won his second Oscar for Forrest Gump, he didn't give a long speech. He thanked his family, his collaborators, and the audience, then stepped down. He doesn't see fame as a trophy. He sees it as a responsibility to tell good stories, to represent well, to be kind, and because he doesn't chase the spotlight follows him. The teacher of joy, humor is a moral force. Tom Hanks understands that laughter is not trivial, it is a moral act. In A League of Their Own, 1992, he plays Jimmy Duggan, a washed-up baseball player turned manager of a women's team during World War II. He's grumpy, alcoholic, and cynical. But by the end, he's transformed not by grand speeches, but by witnessing the women's courage and joy. His famous line, "There's no crying in baseball," is funny, but also layered. It's not just a joke. It's a man confronting his own emotional repression, and when he finally breaks down and cries during the reunion scene, it's cathartic. Not because he's weak, but because he's human. Hanks uses humor to soften hard truths. He makes serious themes, gender roles, war, grief, illness approachable not by avoiding pain, but by balancing it with laughter, warmth, and hope. He believes comedy isn't escape, it's resilience. The guardian of memory, preserving the past. Tom Hanks is not just a storyteller, he is a historian with a camera. Through Playtone and his personal passion, he has dedicated himself to preserving the 20th century, especially the World War II era. He funded the restoration of vintage warplanes for Masters of the Air. He interviewed veterans for Band of Brothers, ensuring their voices were in the scripts. He narrated Ken Burns' documentaries, giving voice to soldiers, nurses, and civilians. He supported the National World War II Museum, helping it become a world-class institution. He has said, "The greatest generation isn't a myth, they were real people, and if we don't remember them, we lose a part of who we are." His work ensures that the sacrifices of the past are not forgotten, but he doesn't just look backward. He uses history to inform the present. Band of Brothers isn't just about war, it's about brotherhood, duty, and the cost of freedom. Themes that remain urgent. The quiet rebel, challenging Hollywood norms. Hanks has quietly rebelled against the norms of Hollywood, not with manifestos, but with choices. He stays married in an industry of divorces. He ages naturally, refusing cosmetic surgery. He chooses character over spectacle. Turning down superhero roles, he produces meaningful films, not just blockbusters. He works with the same team, rejecting the cult of the auteur. He proves that you can be successful without being flashy, famous without being narcissistic, powerful without being cruel. In a town that worships youth, Hanks embraces middle age and beyond as a time of depth, not decline. When he played Fred Rogers, he didn't try to be perfect. He showed Rogers' sadness, his doubts, his quiet struggles. He made sainthood human. The global citizen, Hanks beyond America, though often called America's dad. Tom Hanks is beloved worldwide. In the UK, The Terminal is studied in schools for its portrayal of immigration. In France, critics praises American decency as a cinematic ideal. In Japan, Castaway is a cult favorite for its meditation on solitude. In Germany, Bridge of Spies is used in law schools to discuss justice and ethics. His themes, kindness, courage, integrity, are universal. Even his voice is globally recognized. He narrated the Olympic Games, NASA documentaries, and UN climate change films, always in the same calm, reassuring tone. He doesn't represent one nation, he represents shared humanity. The final reflection, what Hanks teaches us about being human. Tom Hanks teaches us that you can be strong without being loud, you can be famous without losing yourself, you can laugh and still be deep, you can age and still be vital, you can be good and still be interesting. Doesn't preach. He lives. End in living. He shows us how to be better. The Last Roles, a graceful exodus of 2024. Hanks continues to work, but with intention. 2024, his upcoming film with Robert Zemeckis, may be his final major role. Using de-aging technology, it spans a century in one family's life. Hanks and Robin Wright play the same couple from youth to old age, a poetic full circle. A moment for an actor who has played so many stages of life. He has hinted at retiring from acting to focus on writing, producing, and spending time with family, but he won't disappear. He'll just stop being the center of the frame, and that, too, is in character. The legacy. The man who made decency cool in a culture that often rewards cynicism, outrage, and spectacle. Tom Hanks proved that kindness is not weakness. He didn't need a cape, he didn't need explosions, he didn't need to shout. He just needed to be present, honest, and kind. And in doing so, he became the most heroic figure of his time, not because he saved the world, but because he reminded us how to live in it. The final word. The light that never fades. Tom Hanks will not live forever, but the light he brought into the world, that will. It lives in the child who believes in magic because of Big Dot, the veteran who feels seen because of Band of Brothers, the grieving widow who found comfort in Sleepless in Seattle, the anxious pilot who felt less alone because of Sully, lonely man who learned to hope because of Castaway. It lives in every person who saw a Tom Hanks movie and thought, maybe I can be good too. That is his legacy. Not awards, not box office, not fame, but faith in people, in stories, in the quiet power of a handshake, a smile, a second chance. So here's to Tom Hanks, The actor who made us believe in goodness, the man who never forgot where he came from, the storyteller who gave us back our humanity, and as long as there is a screen, a stage, or a heart in need of hope, he will never be gone.